Hello, my lovely ladies. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. Today's topic is going to be about interracial dating, relationships, and marriage. As some of you may know, I am in a interracial marriage, so this is a topic that I know a lot about. I feel like I needed to make this video just because there are a lot more women, specifically Black women, who are open to it now and may need more information about it and just want to, put this information out here so it's less awkward for you and you're able to get what you want out of your relationships, dating, marriage, and all of that good stuff. So we can begin. I obviously have notes here so I can stay on the topic and just kind of get all the points across that I wanted to make. So I first want to talk about like my experience, because I feel like sometimes if you hear a person's experience, you can better understand where they're coming from, and maybe you can even see yourself in that. So for my experience, ever since I guess I started dating, my first relationship, but it really wasn't a relationship. I think I was like in kindergarten or whatever. The first guy who was my little kindergarten boyfriend was a Puerto Rican little kid, right? And he was like blonde hair, blue eyes, like kind of Puerto Rican. And so he was the first person, I would say, that showed interest in me in that kind of way, like, oh my God, can you be my girlfriend? But again, we were like in, I would say, kindergarten, first grade. So it was very like, I was very young, but that was like the first experience. And so from there, I've dated pretty much all races. And when I was younger, it was not really a big deal because I did live in a multicultural neighborhood. As some of you know, I am Haitian. So, we had a lot of culture around us. We lived around a lot of Greek people, a lot of Indian people. So there was just like a big diversity going on. And I never really looked at things as like race. It was more about different cultures that I was experiencing, because within my own race, right? My own Black race, I wasn't raised as like a Black American person was raised. I was raised as a Haitian person was raised. So it was like there was already a difference in cultures, not necessarily in race. So I think that kind of gave me the mindset where it wasn't really like anything to do about race. It was had to do more about like the different cultures, what languages you spoke, what values you had, what were your traditions, what were the things that your household and your family took pride in and cared about. So from a young age, that's how I kind of looked at it, and especially with dating. But I always had like, I feel like I've dated, just like I always say I've like dated all races, but that was like from very young. Like I remember like one of my middle school crushes was like on this a white kid, and he was, let me see, hold on. Hey, Isabel, love your channel. Found you about a month ago and loved it here ever since. Oh, thank you so much, Karina. Thank you. So happy to have you here. Love that. So yeah, like I was saying, so like even like in middle school, as I started getting like more interested into boys or whatever, because when I was in elementary, I wasn't really that interested. I was actually very awkward and scared. But I remember like the first kid that I went to the movies with was, I think he was another like white Puerto Rican kid, another guy that I was like really really interested in. He didn't go to my school, but we took like the same route to get to school. He was a white kid and he was really interested. So like I dated like, I wouldn't say like the majority weren't Black American, but they were very it was very diverse in my dating experience. So I never really looked like I need to date like Black people only. Those were my only options. If anything, like I just had really like a lot of options of everybody. And I think it's like I said before, because of the culture thing, because of where I lived, it was very multiracial. I didn't live like where there was like a bunch of like one type of person. And then when I did move more into the suburbs, and there were like a bunch of the same kind of person, I was already out of high school at that point. I was in university, and so I was still around like a bunch of different people. Like I remember like even my tutors, like while we were in school, like my sister, we had tutors and stuff, and they were Filipino. Like my babysitters were white or Italian. Like it was very, very multiracial dynamic going on in my life at a young age. And my very first my real boyfriend was a Black guy. And I was obsessed with him, loved him, and everything like that. Like he's my first real boyfriend, so you know all the mistakes you make with that kind of guy, you do, right? Because if anybody knows, if you had like your very first boyfriend when you're like young, you know, teenager, you're obsessed with them. You make all the mistakes. You do every single thing that your parents don't want you to do just to be with the boy. So that was pretty much my experience with my first real boyfriend, but he was a Black guy. And yeah, and he is a Black guy. He's still alive. Yeah, so I've pretty much dated I would say just kind of like anybody who really liked me, and then I liked them. So I never really looked at it like race and or anything like that. When I moved to LA when I was about 20, how old was I? I was 22 when I moved here. And no, 23. Well, turning 23. When I moved here, and no, I was 23. Okay, that doesn't matter. When I moved here, I started I just kept on with the same type of energy. I was just dating whoever liked me and who I was interested in as well. And some of them were Black, some of them were white, some of them were Asian, some of them were Arabs, some of them, you know, they were just all different types of guys. So I never really put a huge like emphasis on the skin color, because I think that is just what it is. It's just skin color. Because like I said before, being a person who is Black, but not from a Black American culture, there are different things, different dynamics going on in that household, right? And there's different value systems and different things you expect and respect about a person. So, and I found that other people who may have like looked at it and was like, oh, why are you with this person or something like that? Like that's happened multiple times. Like some summers ago when I was like, I think in university, some of my good friends were from like Serbia, Montenegro, Macedonia, and we would hang out a lot, and we would, you know, go out and party and stuff like that. Lived in a college town, went to the college bars. And I remember like we were all in a big group just like hanging out, and it was like me, my sister, and my friend, and we were all Black women. And my friend is Guatemalan, so me and my sister were Black, and the other girl, and then we were with these, you know, Eastern European guys. You know how Eastern European guys look, and we were just hanging out at the bar, just partying, dancing, and stuff like that. And then a group of Black guys, maybe like 3 of them, were just like staring us down. And then they asked one of the guys, like, how did you get these girls? And the guy is kind of like, he's not really understanding, because he, like I said, they're Eastern European. They just came for the summer. So it was like very like, okay, this is a weird question. Like, we're just friends, we're hanging out, we're friends. And I knew what they were getting at, because they were just looking at it like, what are these guys doing with these girls? Like, they're Black girls, you're not supposed to be with them. So I think that was like pretty much like I would think the first experience I really had with that is being approached on that situation. But they didn't bring it to me, they kind of brought it to the guys. And I think once they talked to the guys and they seen the guys weren't from America and they heard their accents, they kind of just like backed off or whatever. But that was kind of the first experience. And so as I was, you know, living in LA, like I said, I was dating every single person. The more the more I dated, the more, you know, better experiences I wanted. And it didn't matter if the person was white, Black, Asian, Arab. It really just didn't matter. It was just more about like the experiences I wanted to experience. Now, that meant that every single person would look completely different because they, I didn't look at it like only a white person can give me this lifestyle, or only a black person can give me this life, or only a thing. Like, it was never the case in that way. I always just looked at it like, this is what I want, who can give it to me, right? And so when you have that kind of mindset, race and color just really doesn't matter. But I will say, a lot of the time when I was dating, like, even black men, I would sometimes, they would sometimes like tell me like, oh, like the people that they were with like in the past, or I would know someone they were dating, like it would be most of the time they were dating like a white girl, a Hispanic girl, or somebody else, and then they would be dating me. And I'm like, why are you dating me? They was like, oh no, you're my perfect girl, you're the kind of girl that I wanted, or whatever. And I always found that to be like interesting, because I felt like you like have a history of dating only specific looking girls, and now you're here over here with me, and like you're like head over heels and want to be with me. So I think it's kind of to do with like my energy on that topic. Like, I just never based anything on race, like, ever. And I never really walked into a place thinking, of other people's feelings, or what they think of me and what the color of my skin was, because I knew like I'm more than the color of my skin, and the person that I'm going to be with is more than the color of his skin, right? And that, I think that's the same thing with my husband. Like, he doesn't look at it like in that kind of way. But I will tell you a couple of different things, like, just to watch out for, because if you are a person who really cares about that, and that's a sensitive thing for you, and colorism, which I kind of spoke about in my last video, but all of these things may trigger you and make you feel like not good as a person, then maybe you shouldn't date outside of your race. But I do believe that if you are like similar to me, and you're just kind of like trying to live your life and enjoy life, and you don't really care what other people have to say, or what their opinions are, if it's not benefiting you, then yeah, sure. But I will say, like, when you are there are different types of people, right? There are different types. I would just say about white people, right? There's some white people who are very liberal, and they, will they care about, the black people, their plight. They care about all of that stuff, right? That's something that they even probably went to school for. I don't know, but like, they care about that. They have a voice and an opinion about that. And sometimes you will meet those people, and they, like, I've had this happen to me before, like at a dinner with my husband, at one of his because some of you guys know my husband's an attorney, but he's involved in like ends of courts and stuff like that. So there's like a lot of judges and attorneys and stuff that I get to meet and stuff. And so we were having a dinner at one of these events, and this guy who was at our table, he was seated at our table. He saw who I like. Okay, he's married to a black woman. So he instantly goes to tell me about his experience of going to some black museum in Texas, and all of this experience in like with slavery and stuff like that in this museum and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's interesting and stuff like that. And like, just not really saying anything, just listening to what he had to say, because he'd like to hear himself speak. And so I was just like listening and stuff like that. And then like after, my husband was just saying, he was like, it's so crazy, like how he was like talking all this stuff, not realizing like you're not even Black American. Like, a lot of the things he's talking to you about, like, of course it, but like, it's like you're Haitian. So like, if you're talking to her, like, he's talking like every Black person knows about this stuff, cares about this stuff. Not saying I don't care, but it's just like, and it's like, oh, you must care about this. This is the topic I'm going to talk to you about. So there are people like that will talk to you like that. They can be very interested in you, very much like into you. And they're also into talking about how much they're colorblind or on your side. And there are people for those people. Those are not my people. I find them very, very annoying. And I think they make a lot of assumptions about who Black people are. And they don't realize we come in different packages. We come from different parts of the world. And I feel like that is just one of the things that you experience when you're dating or in marriage and relationships is like you will find like the really, like I have so many people who will come to me and will be at dinners or things like that, and they'll like automatically think I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, or not a Republican, or I'm liberal, and they'll talk to me on those topics and they'll just assume, right? And I'm not either or, right? So I'm pretty much like my own thinker, free thinker. I see both sides and see what they are. I think they're the same thing on whatever. I don't really think too hard about it. I'm not really into politics that way. I'm knowledgeable on it, but I don't pick a side. I can see both sides for what they truly are. So I'm not really into it. But I go to some of these events, and even like when we go into our more conservative circles, some people are fascinated that I'm there. They're like, "Oh my God, like what brought you here?" Da-da-da. I'm like, "I'm just here with my husband." Like, like I'm just, but there people will make assumptions a lot of the time. If you are dating someone who is white, I would say, or even any race, but I'm just saying specifically what my experience has been, especially with my husband, because he is more involved in the community and he does have more of a public image, and he's in a lot of these circles. So I get invited to those things and I start to see like, wow, okay, a lot of these people just like see you and they automatically know what conversation to get into with you. And then as they get to know me a little more, and then they realize like, oh no, you're actually Haitian. Wait, you speak 3 different languages. Oh, wait, you grew up in Boston. Like, because they will automatically assume, okay, Black girl from LA, probably from this part, probably. And it's like, you couldn't be so farther from the truth. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with that, but I'm saying what's wrong is like they have these preconceived notions about you in those kind of circles. And like I said, like you can care or not care. I choose not to really care, but that is something even my husband notices. And he's just like always like, that's so annoying. Like people will automatically like think these things about you just because of your skin color. Before I go on, let's see. Leah says, "Hey, pretty lady. Hey, girl. How are you?" Janali says, "Hi, Isabel. First live. Good topic. Thank you." Karina says, "Can you talk about attracting white men? I do meet them online, but in person, they never approach. I dress very classy and demure, aloud, but I do have a stereotypical video vixen body. Is it that? Tips?" It's not necessarily your body. I think it's more so in person, people like, especially with, I would say with white men, they want to see like some bit of an invitation that you might be interested, because they don't necessarily want to like try to approach and get like, shut down. So I would say like in person, you just smile, you give a little like, oh hi, like I'm friendly, or just like being nice and smiling. And you can, and depending on what you're doing and where you're at, you can always ask a question or ask for some type of assistance in some kind of way, just so they know like you're friendly and like approachable, because that's kind of like the idea. Like if they're looking at you but not really approaching, but you can see like there's something there, if they look at you, you smile to them, like throw a smile, and usually you will, get more of a response. Because I'm telling you, like I naturally do this where I will be walking and if somebody's looking at me, I just smile at them. And it could just be like I'm just always gonna say hi, good morning, like depending, it doesn't really depend on anything. It's just like that's just like a custom of what I do. And as soon as you open the gate to that, then it's like, oh my God, let's keep talking, And I always like, I'm like, what did I just get myself into? So sometimes even just smiling and like saying hi or good morning, just a passing by, then that kind of gives them the invitation, because white men will talk. They will talk your ear off if you let them. Like it's very interesting. Once they get that invitation, it's all there. Girl, I hate that. I'm not liberal, so for me, liberal men are no. Liberal people in general tend to look down on Black people and will pity you. It's awkward. Oh my God, it is so awkward. And it's so crazy because that was something that when I was dating, I was so specific on. Like, I did not like, I don't care if a person is liberal so much, like, if they're not like overly like liberal about it and want to talk about it, because I'm not, right? If anything, I, like I said, I'm more in the middle. I look at things my own way, but I do have like conservative values and traditional values that are very important to me. But I do understand like certain like liberal ideologies and stuff like that. But if a person was like, I remember like a lot of when I was dating, especially during Trump era, there would be like on dating sites like no trumpets. And I'm like, well, no, you. Like, I'm not a trumpet, right? I'm not a person who's like, oh my God, yes, Trump or whatever like that. But I'm like, I don't want someone who's like so into politics that like they can't be around someone who has a different opinion. Like, no, they want to live in an echo chamber. And so that would annoy me. And those kind of people are annoying. Yes. Very real, weird, and a little fetishy. Right. I get so annoyed when people assume they know my moral stance and on things. I always know it's because I'm a Black woman. I grew up middle upper class, so I can never relate. Same, same. So it's yeah, yeah. It's extreme people on either side is too much. Yeah. Also, liberals are usually broke. It depends. It does depend. So a guy who I was with for a significant amount of time before my husband, who I thought I was going to marry. Remember, guys, if you've been here for a while, I've heard about the surgeon, and he was liberal, but he was liberal. He's from Bulgaria, so I don't know where his liberal ideology came from, but he was liberal and he kind of, but I think it was more of like his lifestyle kind of went with it because he was like also Orthodox Christian. So yeah, but like even with my husband's family, they're a little they're liberal, but even my husband is not, right. He kind of goes both ways. Just to say, my husband voted for Bush at a point in time, so yeah, he's basically he's liberal, but he's not really liberal because he will vote for a Republican. So it's not like, he has, and that's kind of the thing like with me where I was like, I'm not really on like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, but I fall more conservatively and my husband falls more conservatively, but we don't really choose a side, but we have family and friends and stuff who are more liberal. And then we have other friends who are more conservative. And it's just more comfortable being around the more conservative, more Republican friends. But we just honestly don't even talk about those kind of things. So yeah, sorry. Oh my God, very true. They generally make less money. Yeah. They actually, I mean, this wasn't even the topic, but I will say they actually do. Some of them do, some of them don't. It depends on what level they are. Being in California, it could go either way. Because this is more of a liberal state. So, people who have money here can go either way. I think the more south you go, like once you get into Orange County, well, once you're in like mine where I live, it's definitely conservative. It's been conservative for years. But like once you're like here, like from the beach cities, when you get down into Orange County, when you're going south, you're getting into like conservative time mindsets and stuff. And that's great. That's perfect. I think I'd rather live in a more conservative neighborhood than a liberal neighborhood. But again, that's not the topic. But yes, we all agree on that. They do generally, and they do things different. I would say this, like with even my husband is like very generous and he loves giving back, but like I tell this to him all the time. I'm like, he gives back in a very conservative way. So like liberals, when they give back, they think more about like, oh, I want to give back. I want to help like a homeless person get housed. They look at the people at the bottom that need, help and stuff like that. And because I say help because you never know if a person's choosing to live on the streets for drugs or they're actually homeless. It's a big thing out here. But they look to the person at the bottom and say, hey, I'm going to help you, right? Whereas though more conservative people, when they give back, they look to the people who are trying, who are like, who may not have everything they need to get to where they're going, but they're working hard to get there, and they give to those people. So like with my husband, he likes to give to the church. He will give to the local sports teams or the music, like the high school. He'll give back to the school. He'll give back to like, those kind of organizations that like people who are already he'll like this summer he had interns come in from the high school to work in the firm. He gives back to people who are already like on their way and gives them a boost. And that's a very conservative mindset to do that in that kind of way, which I mean, I'm fine with giving back any way that you want to, but I'm saying like that's like certain things where like conservative and liberals kind of fall. Like one kind of is more like, okay, you're at the bottom, I'm going to pull you up. And another person is like, hey, you're here and you want to get to where I am or higher, I'm going to bring you to that level or help you get there. So it's just different. I live in Orange County. I love it here. I like the South Bay and San Diego as well. Oh, shoot, you live in Orange County? Love the OC. I live in the South Bay. So yeah, of course. But yeah, I live in South Bay. So I always tell my husband, like, we can move to OC. Like, I love it there. I absolutely love it there. It's so clean, it's so nice. But he's South Bay through and through. I don't think we're leaving the South Bay. But yeah, I love the OC. And San Diego is one of my favorite places. I always say if I knew about San Diego before I moved to LA, I would have moved to San Diego. I love it there. I did my astral chart reading, and it said my chances of finding my loving, providing partner would be amazing in San Diego. Maybe I should ditch Texas and go to Cali. If you really want to be in California, I mean, California ain't for the weak. I mean, I feel like, it just depends on like what your actual life, like what you see your life going. Do you want to be in San Diego? Do you want to be in California? Or is it just to find this partner? Because you don't know, right? Because your person could live in San Diego and you meet them online and then they move you there, right? So you don't know. I don't believe that like you have to move to get to the person, because I think there's a lot of opportunity in Texas. I mean, honestly, when I look at the houses over there, when I look at just like the cost of, I'm like, that is amazing. Yeah, so I would say, put yourself online and see what's going on in California and if you're getting any interest. But it may be. I mean, these San Diego guys, they are quick to be like getting on one knee, just as long as they're not, in the military, because you don't want to deal with all that. But yeah, maybe. My fiance lives in the South Bay. I told him he's moving here. I want a house in Newport. Oh my God, I love Newport. Yeah, I mean, South Bay is different though. Like, I understand. Like, I've lived in the South Bay for a couple years. I lived in another, like a little more south of South Bay, and then my husband lives like before we met, he lives in a different part, and so I moved to his part, obviously, because this is where our house is, when we got married. And I love this neighborhood. I love living here. It's just, I don't know. I don't really see guys from the South Bay willingly wanting to move to the OC, because they kind of like the closeness to LA, and like it's like our own little bubble out here. So yeah, it's probably going to be hard to convince him, but I mean, a house in Newport, of course, who doesn't want that? That's beautiful. I hope you get that, girl. I'm praying for you. I want that. But I do think I want to stay in the South Bay. I really like it here, and I have my little routine here. And yeah, I think we're probably gonna stay. And I love living out here. And my husband's parents live like a block away from us, like a couple streets down, and they're getting older, and we want to have kids and stuff like that. So it's kind of like we want to stay close to them. And my mom now lives over here. She moved from Boston and she's retired in California and she lives in the South Bay. So like, I don't think like us getting and going to Orange County is ever going to be a thing, but I love it there if it ever can be. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Back on topic because not everybody's from California, so they don't even know what we're talking about. Okay. So another thing. So other than like what I was saying about other people being, in that, another thing is if you are like that. So if you are a person who really does care about, if you are like, I mean, I guess you wouldn't really be dating a person outside your race if you're more like a Dr. Umar kind of person. If you know who he is, I think what does he call himself? Like a I forgot what he calls himself, but like he's like all for the black people or whatever. If you're that kind of person, then you probably won't even really be dating outside your race, and you can be free too if you want. But I would say if you need convincing to be dating outside your race, like it's not something that is in you to do or that you want to do, like you probably shouldn't, because it's going to be awkward for you and you're not really going to get the results that you truly want because you have some type of like ism about it. Like you're not very like you want somebody to convince you of it, and it just should be natural to you. So a lot of the things that are online of people like saying, oh, like you should start dating outside your race, or like you need to divest, or whatever the terms are, a lot of those people that are saying that, like they either it just came natural to them, or they like purposely are now like, I need to date outside of my race. So they have a whole kind of like a internal issue going on with them, and they think other people outside are the reason, and like now they've made it their identity, like I only date outside my race. I don't think that's a healthy way of doing it or dating, because I think it's weird, because if you are interracially dating and you say you meet a white guy and you see like every person he's dated has been a black woman similar to you, then I would think, and I don't like to say this a lot, I don't like to be the one to say like, oh, this person has a fetish or anything like that, but it seems like that, right? Because it's like you would want that person, especially if they are white, to have dated white women, right? You don't want them to only date you black women. I only like black women. It's like, no, like you would want them to have dated and experienced other types of women, and you, again, like they're not just looking at you because you're black, they're looking at you because you're a beautiful woman, like they're attracted to you, they want to be with you, right? So I think that kind of is like fetishy, because, and I think that on both sides, when a guy does it or when a girl does it, when it's like, I'm only dating you because you're white, right? I only date white guys. So that's why I'm dating you. So that is also very awkward and weird. And it's also just like a fetish, right? Because you're expecting certain things. And I say this all the time, but like some people like has this idea like if a person is white, then they have money. Like that is such a misconception. And it's not everybody's fault why they think like that. I mean, that's kind of the idea that our society has been pushing, that white people have money and this other group of people don't have money. But I will tell you this, if you look it up, it's in on Google, white people are not they are not making the most money in America right now. They are not. If that was the case, if that was what you were looking for money, then you would be looking more to Indians, to Asians. You would be looking at those people because they have the most money. They're making the most money right now. They're in those jobs, they're in that field, they're involved in AI, they're doing all the things like that. So I would definitely say, like, if you're looking in that kind of like way of, oh, I want to get with a white person because they have money, and I'm just with this person, I need to stop talking to this other group of people because they don't have any money, then you're looking at it kind of wrong, just based on skin color. Because I've dated like mostly every black guy that I've dated had money. Like that was just a requirement because I was dating for lifestyle and what I actually wanted out of that time in my life, and not for skin color. So if you are one of those people, because this topic may bring those people in there that are like, oh, like I'm divesting and stuff like that. That is not That's not what this is. This is me just letting you know like what it's like dating a person outside of your race. Another thing to think about with that is if you are like very sensitive, you will notice when you are in a marriage, but even in a relationship, a lot of the time when you are in a relationship, you're going to joke around with the person and stuff like that. And if you are with a white person, white people, they have racist things they say. There are racist things that come up in relationships, just as jokes or whatever it may be. If you are sensitive to that and that kind of stuff, like you can never like have a white person joke about race in front of you or something like that, that's going to be an issue for you, because that's going to come up, because it's a natural thing in a relationship. Like me and my husband do this all the time. I talk about white people. I talk about like certain things he does, and I'm like, oh my God, that's so white, or whatever. And he'll say things about Black people. Oh, that's such a Black thing, or whatever the situation is. I'm not taking it personal, because we just throw it back at each other, because we're just observing the world and like just like different things that come up and how we're different and how we're the same. And we laugh at it because it is funny, because it's like certain races or different cultures do certain things and it's like very different to one another. But again, if that's something that is going to trigger you, and you don't want that to be like part of your life, then maybe you shouldn't date interracially. Or I mean, you could date, but like maybe not get into a serious relationship with that person. But that will come up. Another thing, let's see. And I there has been times where, like, I just kind of, to go back onto the divestment, or the idea of like this white person, or whatever person is better than whatever race you are. So in my case, like being Black and then being with a white person, like this person is better than me because of their skin color. Like if you have that ideology, or you think anywhere close to that, that is going to mess you up so bad, and it also makes you seem very unattractive. So if anything, when you're dating outside of your race, I would take race completely out of it. Like if a guy is bringing it up, like, oh, like, have you ever been with a white person, or have you ever been with, that's a little weird, because it's kind of like, do you want me to tell you who I've dated before? Like that's weird. Like I've never had that conversation. Like with my husband, he didn't even care who I've dated in my past. Like he was like, I don't care about nothing from like before me. I just care about me right now. Like I want you. Like I don't care about anything else. Don't tell me, right? Like he just, men don't want to hear about your past ever, regardless of what race they are or whatever thing like that. But he was basically kind of like, oh, I don't want to hear, I don't care. He never asked. That's like another thing I tell you ladies, like a guy who's asking you your body count or anything like that, like it's probably immature, because most men don't care to know, and they won't ever ask you because it's not that big of a deal to them. So anyways, another thing about that is that if you see that this guy is like asking you, like, have you ever dated outside your race or anything like that, or he's weary about it, it's probably because he's never dated outside his race and this is probably his first experience. So that would be the case. But if he's like obsessed with it, then I would then like back off. Like this is awkward and weird, and like I don't want to entertain that. So I don't think that it needs to be like so. When you're in a relationship and when you're dating, when you're married, not everything is about race. And I think that's a misconception. People think like race is like the forefront of your relationship. Like me and my husband barely ever talk about race unless it's like a discussion that we're in, like about something else. And it's just like, oh, this race and this race, or whatever the situation, this religion, this culture, this tradition. That's how those things come up. But like in real relationship, like it's not about race, right? And it's just like kind of sometimes it's like other people. Like when we were on a family vacation and we were in a queue and we had to, like, if you were with like how many people are in your family, and then you move up with your family, and my sister was ahead of us and me and my husband were trailing behind, and she was like, oh, like it's us and them, and like they're like, it's like I think it was like 5 or 6 of us. And the lady was like, okay. And then like she saw us coming and she opened the thing and then she stopped my husband and was like, okay, how many are with you? And then he's like, no, I'm with them. And she's like, oh, okay. Even though like when she counted it off, like obviously he was part of it because that was the number, but like she just automatically assumed because he's white that he wasn't with us. So those kind of things will happen where it's like an assumption, like, oh, maybe you're not with this person. But again, we were like in the South, we weren't, in California, that's probably less likely to happen because it's a little more diverse and open here. But those kind of things can happen, but it's not like to the point where it's like, oh my God, I'm so pissed off and I'm mad about it. And, I can't stand this and it's unbearable. Like that to me, it's not a big deal if that happens. Like that's a honest mistake. And sure, like we don't look like we're all in the same family because we don't all look alike. So I get that. But those kind of things may happen. And another thing that, let me see. I was born having a preference for white men. I only dated within my race 2 times, and neither were kind of mid. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people had a preference of white men because of the fairy tales that we saw. So a lot of the attractive guys we saw growing up were white guys, Ken or Prince Charmings or just any of those stories. So it's kind of embedded in our minds, like we find these people attractive. These are the guy, the hot guy in the movie and stuff like that. So I'm not taking it away from that. Like the thing for me is like, I just never looked at it like only white guys are attractive. I just think like whoever's attractive is attractive. You could be white, you could be black, you can be anything. And I'm like, if you're attractive, then you're attractive, right? But yeah, I could totally understand that. And if that is your preference, if that's who you're dating and that's who you're married to with, it doesn't, I mean, I don't care, right? And a lot of people have that same preference where they're like, I only date Black women, or I only date white women, or I only date such and such person. But I am saying that at least you were like, I would say like I would be weary of a person if they dated only, I would say if a person told me who was white that he only dated Black women, then I would be like, okay, that's interesting. Like nobody else, like no, but like because you grow up around white women and white girls, and there are your mother's white, and like who do you find attractive? You've never dated anybody, so I would think like, okay, this is very interesting. Like with my husband, like I've known the people who I've seen the people who he's dated in the past, and he's dated white, he's dated Hispanic, he's dated a Black person before, so he's dated other races of people, and then so like yeah. So, but I mean, to each his own. I just feel like for me, like, I don't know if I would be completely 100% okay if the guy would be like, I've only dated Black women. And I would just think of like, is that a fetish, or are you really interested in me? Could it be anybody? Is it really me? So, yeah, that's the difference. And I mean, I guess I could ask you, is it just like any white guy, or is it just only attractive white men? Because there are some people like that, like they don't have to even be attractive. They just have to fit this color standard, right? And then it's like, what kind of white? Is it Italian white? Is it Eastern European? Is it like Norway white? Is it, so is it American white? Like what kind of white are we talking? So that kind of goes into the whole thing, because I think that's very interesting. But yeah, I know there are some people who are like that, like that's their preference, because that's kind of what we were told is the preference growing up, is like this is who you date. But yeah, I mean, to each his own, let's see if there's anything else on this that I wrote down. And that's another thing, like just because I do think like dating whoever wants to be with you, being in a relationship, whoever wants to be in a relationship with you is very important. Because if you think like only like this is the person, he's gonna look like this guy. He's going to have this skin color and he has to be the only one that's end up for me. Then you probably may end up waiting a lot longer. So like with me, I did not care. Like I didn't even care like what when I knew I wanted to get married, I didn't even care what he would look like at all. There was like really no image of what the guy was going to look like. It was just like, these are the values that I want. This is how I want to be treated. This is the lifestyle that I want to have. And honestly, I feel like I lucked out with my husband because he is an attractive guy. He, you know, he's a typically attractive guy. I'll say that, right? And I've dated like most of the guys I've dated, I would think that they were attractive, but I do think my husband is probably the most attractive, obviously. But you know, he has the dark hair, he has the blue eyes, he's like over 6 feet, he has a great career, he's just, you know, the whole thing. And then he just happened to be white and, you know, all that stuff. So it's just like, I think that's important too. Like sometimes we kind of limit ourselves when we think like, oh, this person has to look like this. And you by open up your options, you might end up what you want physically by not making that the priority and allowing that to come to you, and then you get it anyways. Because like there are some women who are like, oh, like I'm open to dating outside of my race, but I really do want to be married to a black guy. Like I really want a black guy. Okay, that's fine. But if you date outside your race, you may not know. You might end up with the black guy, just that ends up being the person who asks you to marry you, right? Then you get what you want anyways, but that doesn't mean you stop dating who likes you, right? So I hope that makes sense. Um how old were you when you met your husband? So I was 30 years old. So I had turned 30. My birthday is in January. And so I turned 30 and I was actually on vacation with my sister. And the guy I was with for a very long time sent me on vacation. He couldn't make it. And he sent my sister instead of himself. So on that vacation, that is when I decided, because I was turning 30 and I knew like things needed to change. I wanted to like I already knew this when I was 29, because at 29 I knew that was like the last year of my 20s, and like this was not going to be the same. Like I was going to move into a different direction. I was going to move into a different decade of my life. And so when I turned 30, we were in Tulum, Mexico, and that trip with my sister, I was manifesting, I was praying, I was like in my like purest self and speaking to my future self and said, this is what I want in my life for my 30s. Like, this is where the direction that we're moving into. And I was like, I honestly, I thanked my 20s for the service. And I was like, and now we're doing here. You passed the baton. Now I'm 30. This is my identity. And from there, when I got back, I was me and that guy ended things because at that point I knew like, okay, he's a neurosurgeon, so he was always on call, he was always working. I just felt like I wasn't really a priority, and I felt like we weren't gonna get married. I knew we were together for a very long time, but I knew like this wasn't going to get anywhere. And this is what I tell a lot of you ladies. Like sometimes you're with a really great guy who, you know, has the money, has the career, has everything that you want, but like it's not going to get you what you actually want. And I knew that. So we kind of like ended it there. And I think my birthday was the last straw for me. And so then I started dating other people, and I dated this other guy who was really great. He was the COO of a hospital out here, and he was great. And I liked him for a little bit. And then I dated another guy, and then I just started like dating. And then in August, I met my husband, and in July, I met my husband. End of July, I met my husband. Just when I was like out doing like a signing for my business, and he was the attorney there, and he waited and kept it cool. And after, just asked me for my number and asked me out. And I always say the story. I had the date I had with him was in the middle of, so I had a date before him. Then the next day was him, and then the next day was another date with another guy. And I dated all 3 guys. And after his date, I was like, oh, I like him. And he was like obsessed, like head over heels, like brought flowers to me, went to dinner, went dancing, like absolutely like great time. And then he was like the next day was like, can I see you again? But I had the date with someone else. And I was on the date with him with the other guy, and I was like texting him, and he was like, I would love to take, like, can I see you tonight? Can I see you tonight? Like, doesn't matter what time, like, I just want to see you and hang out with you again. And I was like, okay. So like after that date, like he came by and picked me up, and then we went to another restaurant. I didn't really eat because I literally just finished eating, but like from there, and he just was like, I want to be with you. And then he was like, every single day was consistent. And then after I think after like 9 months, we started talking about marriage, and he was asking about what ring I wanted. And yeah, then after he got the ring, he got it designed exactly the ring that I wanted, and then he presented it to me and asked me to marry him. And then, you know, I said okay, and we got married, girl. So that's the long story. I mean, short, long story. So inspirational because I'll be 28 in October, and society really tries to brainwash us to think after 25 we no longer viable and we can't find the dream man and we'll be lonely forever. So thank you. Yeah, no, see, that's the thing. I was never, I think I just kind of live in my own bubble, and like I just let like the actual marketplace tell me things, because I never thought that when I was 28. Like when I was 28, I never thought like, oh, it's over, I won't get married. I always knew like once I decided that I was going to get married, that it was going to happen. It was just all me, because I could have been married at any age, really. I mean, I feel like any guy that I was in a real relationship with, I could have got that with them. But I also knew like, I always knew like what was for me and what wasn't for me. So like I would say like with my first boyfriend ever, like I even knew like head over heels puppy love. I knew it wasn't going to last forever. I knew he wasn't going to be like my end all be all. And I can see that in people, like when I'm dating them, when I'm in a relationship with them, this isn't going to last. And so the last guy before my husband, I knew it wasn't going to last. And it was just like there were so many benefits that I kept on distracting myself from actually letting it go, because it was like anytime I was close, it was like, here's another trip, here's another bag, here's another thing. And you know, Capricorn me, I'm gonna take that stuff. You know, I'm gonna be materialistic at that point. So yeah, so I think it's very, very different when you're when your mindset is completely different, because when I was 30, like I just knew like this is the time that I want to get married. Like now I'm ready. Now I want it. And then it came into my life. So I think it does depend on like what you're letting into your mind and what you think, because you can honestly be any age and get married. You can find anybody. And also my husband is 12 years older than me. Most of the guys, I mean, all of the guys that I date were like older than me, but he was in the point where he's dating a younger woman, right? Dating me. So it's like, he's like, if you were any younger, I don't know, right? Because he's like, hey, if I was dating you in your 20s, I don't know if we would be together. I was like, I don't know either, right? But now that I'm 30, I'm more mature. I know what I want. Like now I can like, we have a good relationship, because honestly, if he was any younger, if he was like say in his 30s, I don't think I would have been with him, right? Because he would have been in his Prince Charming era. Who knows? Probably would have been cheating on. I don't even know. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't feed into that. My husband says he has no preference in particular. He dated both white women and black women and told me he loved me for being me. He doesn't have the whole white European standard, and I don't give a okay. Okay. And that's the thing. Like it's so funny, because it's like most of the guys, they just are like, you look good, I like you, I want to be with you, right? Like I don't care about anything else, like I want to be with you. And that's like with every woman, like he's putting you, like I think that's what the thing it is for me, is like he's not looking like just black woman. Like when people say, oh my god, you're so pretty for a black woman, you're a beautiful black woman, and it's just like, that's like a subcategory. Like I'm trying to like be beautiful in all the categories. Like I want to be beautiful against the white woman. I want to be beautiful against the Asian woman. Like I want to be beautiful to everybody. So I think that's kind of the mindset, because it's like if you only have me in this one little subcategory, is like, okay, I guess that's a compliment, but what about against her? Right. But not saying that we're against each other, but I think that's kind of my mindset, is like, if you think attractive is attractive and then you like me and you want me, then I feel like, oh, okay, like you really like me because that's how you're looking at me. And I think it's the same thing with men, right? Because there are so many guys who I find attractive and I'm like, oh, he's attractive or he's thing, but it's not because of his skin color, it's because, oh, I think he actually looks good. So I hope that makes sense. I so love your mindset. Thanks, girl. Seriously, I'm absorbing that mindset and following suit. Thank you. Please do, because like honestly, it's your mindset that's going to set you up for what you get. So like being 28, like I remember that, like that's such a different part of your life, because I mean, if you look into like Saturn return and stuff like that, like you're changing as a person. You are becoming like more closer to your truer self, because at that point, you had the 7 year cycle. You can look into it and it's an actual thing, because I remember when I turned 28 and like everything was changing for me. And at that point, like you got to start like stop letting other people narrate how your life is going to look for you. So like a lot of the time, a lot of people like say on my comments like, oh, it's not realistic to expect a guy to give you this or do that. And honestly, if you don't think it's realistic, then it's not realistic. But in my world, it is realistic. In my world, that makes sense. And honestly, like if I'm telling you the truth, a lot of women, especially these days, a lot of the women that I know that are married and have children and have a husband that is a provider, protector, all those things, they met him at 30. Like that's kind of like an actual thing that I'm noticing now, is like a lot of them met their husbands at in their 30s or got married in their 30s, and it's because that now they know what they want. A lot of the times in our 20s, we don't even know what we want. We can easily get manipulated, we can easily get derailed, we can take BS from someone. And when you're like, oh no, I'm sure, now I'm sure, and I've experienced enough to know like what I actually want, you get a different experience. So it is your mindset. But everybody has like different things going on. I know so many people who even like married in their 25 and stuff like that, and they got what they wanted. And then some people who did marry young, and then now they're looking maybe in getting divorced. So it all depends. But I think as long as you're ready, because that's what it comes down to, is like you yourself being ready for marriage, and then preparing your life for that, then that comes to you. But like for me, when I was in my 20s, I was not ready for marriage. That was something I thought of happening in the distance. Like I'm like, yes, I want to get married, but not right now. Yeah, yes, I want to have kids, but not right now. Right. And then once I decided, no, I do want it to happen right now, then it happened. It happened very easily, and I was serious about it. I was dating seriously. Yeah, so I think that is important to have that mindset. And a lot of the times with people of different cultures, I think sometimes like, so this is something I did notice, like a lot of the times with white people and white culture, a lot of them don't find marriage to be um such a big deal that they won't do it. So I think like sometimes in the black culture, black American culture, like people are so afraid to get married because they don't want to get divorced. And I think that's fine, whatever, if that's one of your fears, like you don't want to get married because you don't want to get divorced. But I feel like in white culture, white American culture, like if they get divorced, they get divorced. Like there has been so many times where people get married and like they're like, oh, I'm gonna get like, I got a divorce. I gotta get married again. Oh, I got a divorce. Like a guy that we met, like while we were on vacation, he was like a white guy, obviously, and he was chatting up with my sister and stuff, and like trying to talk to her. And he was like, oh yeah, I've been married 3 times. I'm here with my wife, but I don't know if we're gonna make it because she's boring. And like he did not care, and he was like trying to chat and try to stuff like that. Like a lot of, I think white culture is like not afraid of divorce, where black culture is afraid of divorce. Not saying that you get married to get divorced, but I think they're a lot more willing to get married because they're not afraid if they have to get divorced. I mean, if they have to get divorced, they get divorced, but they rather be married than not be married. And I think that's a lot of the reason why we see in society, like even when you look at like professional women, when you like have like white women and they're like professional working and stuff like that, a lot more of them are married rather than black women in those same positions. It is because like they want to get married, you know, they want that marriage more, and they're gonna get both, right? And so I think like that's also a thing to remember is like when you're dating a person, like are they afraid of divorce? Are you afraid of divorce? Are you afraid of like what could happen, and not willing to take the risk? And I do find that, like, you know, like I said, like in my culture, people will get married just to get to America. So marriage is obviously important. It's a very important and um it's very important, but also people aren't scared to do it. So I do think like some people like I remember seeing something where it was like a family. I don't know if you guys ever seen this. It's like Family or Fiance or something like that. It's like a TV show, and they would have like the fiance come and they would ask for the family's blessing and stuff. And I remember like this person was dating this guy for like 2 years, and his family was like telling him like, "What's the rush? Why do you need to get married?" And it's like 2 years. Like, are you kidding me? Like, if I was in a relationship with 2 years, my mom is like, when is he going to ask you to marry him? Not the other way around. Like, oh my God, this is a rush. So I think that is also the difference is like culturally. I think, you know, that may happen, but it does depend on the culture. So that's not necessarily the race, because if you are from like a more Caribbean or even an African culture, and your family and you or his family may be expecting you guys to get married, whereas though maybe a black American family may not be expecting you guys to get married. And again, that's different for culture, not necessarily race. But I do notice that a lot of the time white men do not care if they get divorced, because they'll be like, I'm on my fourth wife, and I'm like, damn, you can't get anybody to like you. And then like some of the women is like, this is my third husband, and I'm like, okay girl, I feel you. I am drinking some honey turmeric tea. So good. It's my favorite tea. It's from Yogi. Let me see. Yeah, it's from Yogi. I love tea. I don't drink coffee, so I do tea, and like that is like the best tea. You have to get it in the supermarkets, I think anywhere. It's the Yogi honey turmeric tea. And it's really healthy for you. So if you guys have any questions, you can put them in. If you want to say anything, if you want to chat, you can put it in now, because I am wrapping it up. And I would say now, like when you are dating interracially, make sure that your standards, regardless of who the person is, what their race is, or anything like that, you hold the same standards for everybody. I don't want you bending on your standards because you think this person or this way or this thing. Like everybody gets treated the same when it comes to what you want and your values and like what you actually want out of the relationship. It doesn't matter. And I think that's important because I mean, obviously we're gonna compromise and do things once you are in a relationship. You know, not everything is gonna go your way, but I'm talking about your actual values. You want to make sure those things are aligned. And because a lot of the times a person will be with a guy, and I've seen this so many times where they're just like, oh, I like him and he's, you know, he's this thing, so maybe I won't ask him for this, or maybe I won't demand this kind of treatment, or maybe I won't. And they'll just like continue to compromise until they're compromised out, and then it's like the person doesn't even want you anyway. So I do think it's important for you to be like just consistent. I guess that's the word that I'm saying, is like consistent with your dating, and you treat people the same, right? You yourself don't treat them any different because of the color of their skin. And you know, it is what it is. Because I do think that like sometimes what would turn me off completely, and this is something I'm being real with you guys, this actually happened before. Me and my husband, when we were just dating, or maybe we were engaged, I don't know, we would go out, right? And we would be at the bars and stuff like that. And I would see this happen and it would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. There would be a time where we would be talking, and then like say if it's like a black person, a black guy there, and we're all talking and stuff like that, you know, we're at a bar, we're chatting it up and stuff like this is when we used to drink. And I would see like a submission to my husband. Like I would see men submit to my husband. Specifically black men would like, if even if my husband, because he kind of has that perfect personality, he has like more of like a little bit of an alpha personality. When he would drink, it would come out more. But when he's not drunk, he's more like Sigma. He's like, he doesn't like to put it out there, but when he would drink, it would be out there in the forefront, and that would come up, and I would see black men, you know, submit to him in that kind of way. It's weird to describe, but I would see this happen, this dynamic happen, and it would like make me so mad because like they would be talking about something that they know about, right? That they, the black person, the black guy would be talking about something that he knows about. It could be about his neighborhood, it could be about his cause, whatever. And my husband would interrupt and correct him. It's like, oh no, this is this. And the guy would take it. And he would take it and he would let my husband do that. And I know this is my husband, I care for him and love him deeply, but oh my gosh, that used to like get me mad. And not necessarily even mad at my husband. I would get mad at the guy for letting him do it, even though I'm with the guy who's doing it. And it's just because like I don't like the idea of that. Like a white man, like basically correcting a black man. And I think maybe that's just me, but like I would see that and I would just be like, why are you letting him do that to you? So, I mean, that those are certain dynamics that would happen. And as you are in a relationship with other people who have more money, who have more power, you'll see those kind of things happen. I'm not saying my husband's a bad person. He doesn't even drink anymore. And those things, he's not that kind of person. He doesn't put himself out there like that. But that would happen sometimes where it would be like an automatic submission. And I would see that sometimes even with not even with my husband, like where I was dating a black guy and like it kind of felt like he was like kissing up to white people, and that would mess me up. So I was like, yeah, that's something I do not like. So if that's something if that's something that you ever witness, oh my God. Hey, Sid. Hey, girl. Thank you for being here. What are your thoughts on keeping the relationship fun? So that is, see, that's a very, very good question. The idea of the relationship, sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not. It's a relationship, right? But the biggest thing, like to keep things fun, is by having still like this childlike relationship with them where you can joke, where you can play, where you're silly. I'm that kind of person. Like I'm the youngest out of my siblings, my sibling right here. I'm the youngest. I am the one who will whine for what I want. I will jump on you. I'm very playful in that way because I'm the youngest. I'm like all about that, right? And so with my husband, he is the oldest. And so I annoy him to the point that it's fun for me and then it turns into fun for him. So I would say whatever you like doing that is fun and like you kind of are in your child energy. Men like that because they're kind of like children and they like that energy. So as long as you're like keeping it fun, keeping it cute, just being a girl but just having fun at the same time, whether you guys like to do activities together or it's just like hanging out or making jokes. I mean, my husband always tells me this, like he knew he was gonna marry me once he heard me like make a joke about him. Well, not even a joke, when I just like mocked him. And all I did, like he was saying something and I was like, oh, and I kind of did something back to him and he was like, that was when I knew I loved you. So it was just kind of like me just kind of being my childish kind of self and like playful kind of self. That's what got him, right? And it's like, it wasn't that I looked gorgeous, had makeup, hair, all this other stuff. It was like, oh yeah, that's great. But as soon as he saw like my childish fun side, like my actual like personality of like being jokey and all that. Like that's what he likes about me. And like I annoy my husband so much, but I think it's a good thing because I mean, you shouldn't be your husband's piece. I'm kidding. No, but I annoy my husband so much. Like he'll be in the like if he's working in the house, like I will go up to him, I will sit on his lap, like when he's in the middle of typing or a phone call, and he gets so frustrated because I'll just like sit there and like, I just want to hug you. And then he's just like, oh my God, like, and then I'll try to get off and then he'll like hold me there, like, no, you can stay. So that's the kind of things like just being playful and loving that usually will keep the relationship going because men like that. They're big kids. And when you kind of have that relationship, they kind of just was like, but not early on. Like I said, like that's something my husband got to see as we got deeper in our relationship. That is not what I presented to him in the beginning. It was just something like once I kind of like got comfortable enough with him and I'm like, okay, this is who I am. I'm a big baby. And then he's like, oh my God, I love it. Give me more. Give me 14 of them. Right. That's weak, so attractive. Yeah, I'm guessing you're talking about the guys who would submit to my husband. It is, oh my God, it's so weak and unattractive. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. And I think men know that. But I think men size other men up and they'll see like, okay, this guy is more kind of the same way kind of how women do it. It's kind of like, oh, this guy is the alpha right now. I'll let him. And then some guys don't accept that, right? They're gonna stand on their own. And that's kind of like even my husband I've seen, like he likes when men stand on his own. So I kind of think like sometimes he's testing them, right? Because it kind of like, you know, like how Donald Trump does it. I don't know if you guys ever really pay attention to him, but he's like in his alpha energy. And when he goes to like these other countries or he speaks with these other leaders who are men, he brings that to them, right? And I don't know if you guys can look it up, but when he was even speaking with Putin, like he like holds his hand and then he puts his hand over that hand. Like that's like an alpha move when you shake someone's hand and you put your hand over that hand where you are holding like their hand like that. That's an alpha move. He did that to Putin. And that's like, oh, okay. Or he will like hold his hand and like do this to him. Like that's an alpha move. So a lot of men test their who they're dealing with. And I just remember like when that would happen in the dynamic with my husband and it would be black men, I would just be like, oh my God, like secondhand embarrassment. I guess that was the case. Hi, Mary. Hello. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I was wondering how to move the relationship offline if it's long distance. I knew you, me. I knew you, me. If you want, okay, it's online and it's long distance. Okay, somebody needs to come visit and he needs to come visit you. That's the biggest thing. There needs to be actual plans of coming to see you. The pandemic's over, so someone can get on the flight. And you know, if you guys are talking, I don't know how long you've been talking, but if it's long distance, if he's interested in you, men have no problem getting on a flight to come and see you. They have credit card points. They have all the resources. Like I'm telling you from experience, that is something like that needs to happen. And the way you have it happen, and you just need to bring it up, like, oh, like when are you gonna come see me? And if he's like, oh yeah, like he'll probably say something about it. But then if he doesn't, then I would back off. I would stop responding to him. I would stop like as much communication. And then, if he tries to challenge you on that, I would just turn and say, like, oh, I don't know because I don't know where this is going because you haven't really planned to come see me and I'm not interested in staying long distance with you. And so kind of put it in that way. So then that way, if he really does want to see you, he's going to make it happen because he doesn't want to stop talking to you. So you kind of put it like, oh, okay, you're not coming or you're not taking it serious. I'm going to back off. So yeah, that's what I would do. I know you've mentioned not spending more than 3 days online speaking with the guy before he makes an in-person date. How can I implement that while dating long distance? That would be okay. So if you're dating long distance and it's online, you have a different set of rules. The first thing is you probably are gonna FaceTime before. And when you guys FaceTime and stuff like that, like make it cute. Like make sure that it's not just like a boring little FaceTime call. Like, oh, like say, I would love to have a real date. Like we can have like a real date. You can send me food. You can like, those things can really like happen to make it like a real date where he's sending you food. You guys are like drinking wine together. Like you're actually making it like a date. But there has to be plans on like him visiting you. Like that has to be the case. Like, and the reason why I say it's important for him to visit you because you want to make sure that you have your own, like your home, you're in your home base and you don't have to like go to his hotel or do anything like weird like that, where it's like, okay, he's spending his money for his flight for him to come see you. He stays at his hotel and then you guys hang out and spend time with each other while he's in town. So that way you're safe. That way, you're just in your home turf, especially the first time you're seeing him. But I would definitely say you online dating long distance is very, very hard, but like you have to start like being more creative with like the FaceTime dates. So like I briefly dated a person online, but like this another person I dated, I'm not even talking about them. Okay, a person that I dated online, we were long distance, but they lived in Northern California and I live in like Los Angeles, so Southern California. And this was like I don't even know how long ago it was, but whatever. This person said, I want to date you. We're far away right now. I want to like continue to talk to you. Like, let's have a FaceTime date. Like, I'll order you food. Like, it'll be there and we can start the date. We'll eat together. We'll enjoy. Like, those are the kind of things that you want. So if he doesn't suggest that, then you can honestly suggest that, like, oh, I would like to make it a real date. Like, we can do something cute, like stuff like that, because we're so far away. And that way we're like having dinner together or something like that. That's kind of the vibe. And he would have no problem, door dashing you food. If he does, then this is probably not the guy for you, because if he won't send you food, then he probably won't buy a flight and a hotel stay or take you out while he gets here. So it's just really like you can talk to him, but while you're talking to him, you're FaceTiming him and you're treating it like you're actually dating him, if that makes any sense. I think that's kind of like the way to deal with it, where you're actually getting what you want out of the guy, just being, kind of straightforward on what kind of dating you want to have. And then also you want him to come and visit you because you want to see, like, you can't really know anything about a person until you meet them in person. So you need to see him, you need to meet him, because where's this going to go? You're not going to sit here on the phone with him day and night and never actually meet the guy. So just think about that. All right, ladies. So any more questions, any more things? I'm going to get off soon. I am hungry. I didn't eat anything yet. I am so sore. So you guys can ask any questions you want. I'm going to just kind of wrap this up, if anything. But I've been going to Pilates. So I started doing Pilates. I've always done yoga. And I've done mat Pilates, but I've never really done reformer Pilates. So this week, my sister-in-law is visiting from Germany. She's been here for a while now. And we were like, okay, let's do something fun together. So we're like, okay, let's sign up for some Pilates classes. So we went to Pilates this week, me, her, and my sister. And I am so sore. Like, it's insane. Like, I always knew Pilates could do this, but what I'm telling you, ladies, like, Pilates is like next level. Like, while you're in it, while you're doing it, like, I'm a very strong person and I have like a high tolerance. It's like, okay, this is easy. This is fine. The next day, my abs, my core is done. Like, it's done. My arms done. Legs done. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I had a golf lesson. I had to cancel my golf lesson because I am sore. Like, I can't even laugh now because my abs are crazy right now. But like, yeah, Pilates is amazing. I know the girl has been talking about it for a while, and I've been in my like weightlifting era, and then I'm in like I'm in a hybrid right now. I'm doing weightlifting, running, and now I'm throwing in Pilates, and I'm like, this is amazing. I love it. And I'm also playing golf. And so, yeah, that's kind of my schedule. That's what my life revolves around, is like different things that I'm taking and that I'm doing. And like, I love what I'm doing right now. It's really fun. I love golf. I've been my trainer, my instructor, he's really great. And I've been on the course now 2 times with my instructor. I do great. I do phenomenal because he's always like, he watches me, he gives me tips and stuff like that. When I play with my husband, I'm trash. I know nothing. So I don't want to play with my husband because he's a lot better and he's a lot more serious, and like, he gets frustrated with me. But like when I play with my instructor, I'm like, I like this. I'm good. I'm actually good with my instructor. With my husband, I'm trash. But yeah, that's just like a little little story about me with golf. But yeah, ladies, when you're dating, I really do think, because sometimes when we're on the course and stuff like that, or when I'm just like practicing and putting and chipping and stuff, or at the driving range, there are so many guys. I don't know if they're single or not, but they are so many guys, and they are just chatty, chatty, chat. When I say they are chatty patty, they will talk to you about anything. Like they'll be like, "Oh my god, I love that color on you." Like I had on like a blue dress, like a active wear dress. And every guy, "Oh my God, I love that color on you. I love that color on you. You look great. You look great." And I was like, "Oh my God, thank you." Right. But I'm like, if I was single, this would be great. Like I could get the conversation going. Like this is the vibe. So ladies, if you are dating and you do want to meet men in person, like start doing more activities where it's not just like women who do it. Cause like with Pilates, only really women are in that class. Like I haven't taken a class yet with men. So you're only really going to meet women. But if you're doing like things like golf or tennis or pickleball or biking, like if you join a biking club, like a bicycle, like one of those people who bicycle. I get on the bike with my husband. We have cruisers and we cruise on the beach. But people who are serious bikers and they are in that like group, yeah, that could be an opportunity. I'm not talking about like motorcycle. I'm talking about like those road bicycles, like those serious bikers that have the pads and all that stuff. Like people who are in that group, they meet people. There's just like a lot of activities that you can like get involved in or learn, and you can meet more men and be available to more people and seem attractive to more people. So yeah, that's just my little 2 cents on that. And honestly, if you ladies do want just better options, more dating options, obviously. And I do think online is a great tool as well. I know some people are like weary about being online, but I think it's like such a great tool. Like you get to basically like meet people in person and meet people that you probably wouldn't meet in person, because you can't be everywhere at one time, but online you can. So if you are interested in online dating, you can obviously go on my course. It's in the bio of this video. You'll see the link to the course, my online dating course. That has every single thing you will need for feminine online dating. That I spent hours on. It's like 9 hours of videos. I take you step by step. So you don't have to do the whole video. I break it down for you so you know like what section you're on. And I honestly give you every single tool that you will need. I go through everybody's profile with you. I talk about why we're choosing this guy, why we're not going to choose this guy. It's literally the best lesson for online dating. So that is in the link in my bio right in this video. And if you do want a one-on-one session, a goddess check-in with me, just one-on-one, you can reach out to me in my email. I do have like a Facebook. You can message me on there, but it's probably best to go through my email because I don't check my Facebook that much. I'm not really a social media person. So yeah, it's best to just email me. Yeah, and that's how you can get in touch with me. And yeah, thank you so much, ladies, for being here. Had so much fun. And I think I'll be back probably next week. It's a long weekend, so probably going to be really busy this weekend. But yeah, I will be back next week. Thank you so much for watching, and bye.